The New York State Lottery numbers are sponsored by Rachel's Mediterranean Grill. I love my Rachels, and you'll love your Rachels too.
Time for a look at what's happening in our community, brought to you by AP Plumbing.
It's 4 o'clock. Time for a new garage door. See rollydoor.com or call 288-2867.
I'm Mercedes Williams with your Spectrum News in 90. Rochester police arrest a man suspected in the murder of a 65-year-old woman. RPD is charging 54-year-old Ronald Lagasse with the murder of Mary Simser. Officers say they found her body in an alley on Pierce Street last month. They say she was sexually assaulted before she was killed by blunt force trauma to the head and neck. Lagasse is a registered sex offender stemming from a conviction back in 1997. Now for a check of your weather on the One's forecast.
Temperatures early Sunday morning varied quite a bit across New York State, anywhere from the upper 20s to mid 30s, from the Catskills, Capital Region down into the Hudson Valley, to some upper 40s, like 47 in Buffalo this morning, 47 only overnight in Syracuse, as well as Watertown. Kind of shows you just the difference, how much cloud cover versus clear sky and calm winds has an impact on our weather, especially through the overnight hours. As we go through this afternoon, we're mainly dry with a mixture of sun and clouds at times across New York State, with leaving in a few lake effect rain showers east of both Lake Erie as well as Lake Ontario, but most of the state remains rain-free today. So get outside and enjoy a pretty wonderful Sunday afternoon. It is a bit breezy out there. Could get some gusts over 20 miles an hour at times, but temperatures will be slightly warmer than yesterday. Highs typically in the 50s to near 60 degrees.
Happening right now on Spectrum News 1, less than a month to go before the November election. How candidates in the race for the U.S. Senate are gearing up.
Plus, the latest on the migrant busing situation in New York City, how the city's mayor says he plans to handle the huge influx of people in recent months.
And the issue of concussions back in the spotlight, what changes the NFL is proposing, as your weekend on Spectrum News 1 starts right now.
Welcome everyone, and happy Sunday to you, and thanks so much for watching your weekend on Spectrum News 1. I'm Mercedes Williams.
Yeah, it's a girls' day here today. I'm Melissa Steininger. Of course, football Sunday.
That's right.
Big games happening today out in Buffalo. The Bills taking on the Steelers. My Eagles 4-0, so I'm really happy about that. And of course, some game day snacks. They'll be on the prep line soon in my house.
Oh, yeah. But before you get to the game day snacks, let's talk about how people can't really see the highlights on your television because you have some special decorations there.
Oh, yeah. My new husband, I can call him that officially. Actually, we have some fall decor. I like to put up some leaves and some garland, and it hides the score of the game, so he is not too happy on football Sundays. So
bottom line, I've seen it. It's really nice, but I could imagine how it can get in the way.
It's the struggle to make the house look good, right? You got to give a little to get a little.
That's right. Everybody has their way on game day Sunday.
For sure. But we have a lot more ahead, including our top story. We're going to get to that right now. We're less than a month out from the November election, and Senator Chuck Schumer will be on your ballot facing off against Republican political commentator and businessman Joe Pinion.
Our Kevin Fry spoke with Schumer this week about his work as majority leader and what his vision is for his next term if reelected to a fifth one.
It was a momentous day for Senator Chuck Schumer that would soon be eclipsed by chaos. January 6th, 2021. Following Democratic victories in 2 runoff elections in Georgia for U.S. Senate, an upset. Schumer was on the cusp of achieving a long-sought goal, becoming majority leader.
We're trying to hold the upper deck.
But the celebration was short-lived. A mob stormed the U.S. Capitol, trying to stop the certification of Joe Biden's presidential victory.
I have never lived through or even imagined an experience like the one we have just witnessed in this Capitol.
In the politically fraught year and a half since, Schumer has faced the delicate task of leading a Senate split 50-50. Even so, Schumer has managed to get numerous points on the board, shepherding bills that Democrats passed without Republican support, like another round of COVID relief, and securing bipartisan approval of gun safety reforms, microchip investments, and the infrastructure law.
There's a load of money for the MTA, over $10 billion. In addition, there's money to build Gateway, to complete the 2nd Avenue subways.
One item, though, proved a challenge: Biden's Build Back Better agenda. The bill appeared dead on several occasions as 2 moderate Senate Democrats repeatedly balked. Schumer kept at it, though, surprising Washington by eventually negotiating a deal that all 50 Democrats could agree to. A slimmed-down version of the plan that passed under a new name, the Inflation Reduction Act.
Did we have some setbacks? Yes, but did we persist and overcome those setbacks? Absolutely.
Schumer is known for being in constant touch with his fellow Democrats, often pulling out his flip phone to emphasize the point. And he argues serving as majority leader has given him leverage and clout, enhancing his ability to deliver for New York. If Schumer wins re-election and Democrats maintain control of the Senate, he is poised to stay on in that job. So, what are his goals for another term?
Helping families, helping people with the child care problem, trying to deal with even going further in climate change.
Schumer admits that if Republicans win control of the House, getting his wish list passed is going to be harder. But he says he'll keep pushing. In Washington, Kevin Fry, Spectrum News.
Thanks, Kevin. In the next half hour, we'll hear from Joe Pinion about how he plans to use his experience to challenge Schumer this election.
Continuing our coverage right now of the migrant busing crisis, El Paso, Texas has launched a migrant situational awareness dashboard to keep track of the number of people being processed. According to that data, more than 8,000 people have been bused from El Paso to New York and 2,300 others to Chicago since the end of August. Migrants are offered city-funded journeys after being processed and released. Each day, border officials encounter an average of 1,500 migrants in the El Paso region. This influx of migrants has also been testing the city's infrastructure. It states about 70% of the migrants arriving at El Paso come from Venezuela.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams says the total number of migrants that have been brought to the city by the Southern government has now surpassed 17,000. That's why he's asking state and federal officials to send more help, declaring a state of emergency this past week. Our Kelly Minna tells us about the pressure to address the immediate needs of these migrants.
Mayor Adams sent a clear message on Friday. The city is at its limits when it comes to helping the thousands of asylum seekers coming into the city on a daily basis.
New York City is doing all we can, but we are reaching the outer limit of our ability to help. We now have a situation where more people are arriving in New York City than we can immediately accommodate, including families with babies and young children.
Adams declared a state of emergency in a bid to help focus the city's resources to building relief centers, a temporary solution to the escalating crisis. Officials say now more than 17,000 migrants have come into the city from the southern border, a population that has strained the city's social services and funding. Adams said that the city is on track to spend about $1 billion this fiscal year on aiding arriving migrants.
This is unsustainable. The city is going to run out of funding for other priorities.
Amid the crisis, Adams says more help needs to come from the federal and state governments, calling for aid and improved immigration policies, including other cities taking in migrants.
We need a realistic decompression strategy at the border that will slow the outflow of asylum seekers. We need a coordinated effort to move asylum seekers to other cities in this country to ensure everyone is doing their part.
Since the announcement, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has said he will continue to send asylum seekers to New York. The mayor said at least 8 buses had arrived at Port Authority on Friday. Meanwhile, local lawmakers have said they support Adams' call for help and implore him to continue to consider indoor shelter options like hotels and large venues for future use. Kelly Mena, New York 1.
The issue of concussions and how they've been handled by the NFL continues to be a big hot-button issue. After the break, we're going to break down the latest as another football Sunday now underway.
Good afternoon, everybody. Time now for another quick weather update here on Spectrum News 1. I'm meteorologist Jack Durkin. Through the rest of our Sunday, we're looking at plenty of dry weather across the states and just a couple of showers possible off the Great Lakes, mainly east of Lakes Erie as well as Ontario today, but most of the state should escape rain-free with temperatures that will be a little bit warmer than yesterday. Most of us in the low to mid-50s on Saturday. We're looking at the 50s, near 60 this afternoon. Still a bit breezy though. Gusts could get over 20 miles an hour at times today. That will make it a little bit cooler than what the thermometer is reading. Looking ahead towards next week, I do notice a bit of a warming trend towards that Tuesday, Wednesday time frame with highs in the 60s and maybe even a couple of 70s in the mix, as well as high pressure looks to settle in for the middle part of the work week. As we go through this evening, still finding a few showers coming off of Lake Ontario, especially east of the lake. That'll continue at times through the overnight. A stalled out cold front that settles into place today will stay in place during the day, at least the first half of Monday. That'll allow a weak disturbance to ride along that frontal boundary the first half of Monday, allowing for some showers at times for our day tomorrow, but still plenty of dry weather mixed in. Those showers will generally be on the lighter side as well as scattered in nature. High pressure settles in and stays with us Monday night into Tuesday and the middle part of the work week as well, before a cold front arrives late week. That'll bring an increased chance at showers and a return to some cooler temperatures. We'll go over that in your localized 7-day forecast coming up in my next weather forecast, so stay with us here on Spectrum News 1.
The National Football League and the NFL Players Association have agreed to update the league's concussion protocol. Changes to the policy were sparked when Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa had to leave the field after a hit 2 weeks ago. He passed a concussion check in the locker room and returned to the game after halftime. 4 days later, he was diagnosed with a concussion after a hit in another game. Current regulations require players to stay out of games they are removed from if they exhibit gross motor instability. New protocols forbid them from returning to play if they are unable to get up from any injury for any reason. It will be implemented immediately.
From football player to author, that's the pivot one former Buffalo Bills player made when he suffered a career-ending injury just a few years ago. New York 1's Annika Pergament caught up with Eric Wood to see how far he's come.
When a career-ending neck injury forced Buffalo Bills center Eric Wood into retirement unexpectedly, it took the Pro Bowler a year to figure out how he would pivot his career. It was just retirement from football. But now, out with a new book, it is called Tackle What's Next. He wants to help others find their career path when something suddenly changes, no matter what stage of life they are in. And he joins me now to talk a little bit more about it. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So in a nutshell, tell us your story, because you were probably at the time expecting a longer career in football than you got.
I was, and so I was a first-round draft pick to the Buffalo Bills in 2009. In my 9th season, heading into the year, I signed a contract extension with the Bills. And I was the only player on the team to play every single snap that season, and we broke the longest playoff drought in all of professional sports. So I wanted to keep playing football. I love playing football. At our exit physical, as I'm getting cleared for the Pro Bowl, they find a career-ending neck injury, and I actually get the news while I'm in the delivery room with my son about to be born. And very traumatic, a lot of emotion tied to it, but God ultimately has a plan for all of us, and I'm excited about this chapter of my life now.
But you made that plan happen. So tell me what you did once you sort of digested and accepted that you weren't going to be playing football anymore. Now you have a new baby at home. So tell me what your next steps were.
Well, I learned quickly I'm not a stay-at-home dad, and I used to joke about that when I was playing. You know, whenever I'm done playing, we have 2 kids, I'll be a stay-at-home dad. Well, I learned quickly that's not what I'm cut out to do. And so I think first and foremost, it was just examining, what do I like to do? What are things I'm into in life? What comes naturally? What lights me up? And being around sports is one of those things. I've liked that, and I've enjoyed that my whole life. And so getting into broadcasting was a natural fit for me. And so I got into broadcasting. Through broadcasting and media work comes the book. I have a podcast called What's Next with Eric Wood, and that podcast led to much of the material that's in this book. So many individuals poured into me through my transition, and I felt obliged to put that to paper so other people could benefit as well.
Yeah, because a lot of other people don't have the platform that you did. They didn't have the fame and the celebrity from being a professional football player and then getting that opportunity. But when you drill down on what the lessons are that can be applied to other people, what are those points that you try to get across that can be applied to anyone?
Yeah, and I try and tell everybody this is not a pro athlete's guide to transition, and it's not even where you have to have this big life-altering moment. It could be simply you want to make changes in your life. You want your next chapter to be your best. So I mentioned examining your gifts, and we go through 12 of them throughout the book, but finding a routine that sets you up for success, stacking wins each day, and then ultimately controlling what you can control and being the best and healthiest version of yourself. They seem simple, but the studies and the research and the anecdotes that we have all support these.
So how do you go about not getting overwhelmed by something like you're not able to do what you had dreamed of doing? And so how do you mentally stack those wins each day when you're feeling sort of down on yourself? I mean, I think that's what stops a lot of people from taking those steps forward on a different path.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And so Jason Selk, legendary performance coach, talks about we create self-confidence by stacking wins, by keeping promises we make to ourselves. So by keeping record, in whether that's mentally or on paper, of little wins in your life. It could be as simple as making your bed in the morning. It could be taking the kids to school if you want to be a great dad and a husband or a mother and a wife. Little wins throughout each and every day lead to long-term success. I often say there's a reason that wealthy people don't play the lottery, because they know the process that it takes to be successful in life, and we give you many tools like that through the book.
So when you look back on your injury now, was it almost a gift to you, or are there still the shoulda, woulda, couldas?
You know, when I'm down on the field before a broadcast, there's times where I miss running out of that tunnel and feeling that adrenaline, but there's been so many blessings in this next chapter of life. I feel like through this book especially, that the impact that I'll be able to have now on people's lives will be so much bigger than the impact I could have had if I just continued playing football.
Yeah, and the confidence knowing that you can do something else, and you have all those abilities. Tackle What's Next is the book. Thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate you talking about it. I'm looking forward to reading more about this.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Eric.
Time for a look at what's happening in our community, brought to you by AP Plumbing.